Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome. This is the Mitacs Global Link Research Internship 2027 live Q&A session brought to you by BRISC in collaboration with CMC and RAC here at NUS CME. My name is Muhammad Ismail and I will be hosting tonight's session. Before we get into anything else, I want you to remember one number tonight, and that number is 30. The 2027 Global Link application deadline is the 16th of September 2026 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time, and that is exactly 30 days from tonight. Applications are already open right now, so whatever you take away from this session, you actually have time left to act on it, but not a lot of time. So over the next hour, we are going to walk through 6 things with 2 people who have genuinely been through this process themselves. We will look at what the real MyText timeline actually looks like and whether interviews really happen, how to narrow down and group a list of more than 3,000 live projects, how to write inside application fields that gives you almost no room to work with, what actually makes a reference letter work in your favor, and what your options are if your GPA is not exactly where you want it to be. And finally, the mistakes that quietly cost people their spot without them over realizing. So let's start. Let's actually meet tonight's guests properly. First, we have Sir Muhammad Ali from Department of Mechatronics Engineering, Degree 44. Sir Ali was selected for Global Rugred Pakistan, which is funded by the US State Department. So he spent an exchange semester at California State University. He is currently a MITEX researcher at Concordia University, working on physical robotics and artificial intelligence. He also received the Rector's Gold Medal from NUST Age 12. His final year project won the Commandant's Best FYP award along with a full year of naked incubation. And alongside all of this, he is working as remote AI engineer with FPR on their track and trace initiative. Sir Ali, welcome and thank you so much for making time for us tonight. And joining him, we have Ma'am Nurul Lan from Department of Computer and Software Engineering, Degree 44. Ma'am Noor was part of Complex EAP and SP Wing. Her final year project was on generating synthetic ECG signals from PPG data for low-cost cardiac monitoring. And right now, she is working on the AI program at EY while also applying for her master's. Ma'am Noor, welcome to this session. It's genuinely great to have you here. Okay, let's get straight into it. So here is where I want to start, and I'm asking this to both of you equally. What actually pulled each of you toward global link specifically over any other exchange or research options you could have chosen? And I want to be honest about something here because a lot of people in this chat right now do not have prior research experience. So I'm genuinely curious for whichever of you didn't come in with a strong research background, did that end up mattering or making any influence as much people usually assume it does? So, Sir Ali, let's start with you, I guess, because you have made various international trips and explored different study programs. So, you have some idea when comparing this research internship compared to other global or Pakistan based research internships.
Assalamu alaikum. सबसे पहले hope you're all well. And I hope मेरी आवाज़ clear आ रही है, right?
Yes, we can hear you right now.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So for me, it was because when I went for the Global U grad, it was an opportunity. It was an exchange opportunity where I actually went to study. So for my tax, this is more of a work thing because you're also granted a work visa, and then what happens is when you come here, you're expected to work in your specific labs, as just like any master's or PhD student in that lab is working. So you're required to work. So this was like a different experience than I had in ugrad. This is work, this is actually research. Professors here have quite a lot of exposure, they have quite a lot of funding. When it comes to research, they give you the best of the best in terms of equipment, in terms of resources, in terms of whatever you ask for. For example, I here am working on the Kinova Gen 3 robot, which is like expensive, but because of like multi-university collaborations here, my lab has that robotic arm. So we were able to use that arm, are able to use that arm and do our research over here. And plus, I have the opportunity to research or publish an international thing as well. So this is what eventually pulled me towards my tax because this opportunity brings you more towards the international side of things, puts you on the radar, gives you something to talk about because eventually, inshallah, when you all graduate, you will realize that in all the interviews you sit in, eventually what it shifts to is just one thing, and the whole interview revolves around one thing. So there's always something about you that the interviewer catches and then talks to you about that. So opportunities like this, I believe, create that one thing on which you in your entire personality, your interviews, whatever it is, revolves around. So, and if you have international exposure, international work experience as well, working with diverse culture, multiple cultural people, um, settings, organizations. So I think it is the best way forward for like international companies as well as Pakistani companies as well. So that was my reason of applying for my tax and research as well because I wanted to do research basically.
Thank you, sir. Again, that's wait. Um, okay, so okay, there seems to be a problem right now. Okay, so, sir, that was a really honest answer. So, ma'am, no, same question goes for you regarding why, how you came up with targeting this research internship specifically, while many other internships are open globally, but I guess they are way too competitive.
Hi everybody. I hope you can hear me. Um,
Yes, we
so
can. So, here.
okay, great. So basically, yeah, there are a lot of internships available, but this was one that was on our radar specifically because our seniors had also gone for it, right? We all know a lot of our seniors had gone for Mitecs. They had been successful in this, and this honestly felt something easier for us to reach because we know people who have already done it. Beyond that, it's a very attractive opportunity. Like beyond the fact that you get to research, um, like come to beyond that you're researching, you get to come to another country fully funded. You get to be independent. You get to see what adult life is like, right? And
Right.
honestly, I've really enjoyed this experience, right? Your professors, it doesn't even matter what kind of university you're going to because they always make sure you have a good experience. They make sure that your research is coming along while ensuring that you get the proper exposure. For example, my university also set up a conference for us as well. So overall, I really enjoyed this experience. I don't have any prior um, international experience besides this. I did have some experience in research, but that was not a lot. That was very minimal compared to this.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, ma'am Noor. Okay, so right now I can't seem to present myself right now with the presentation, but I think so the other moderator are working on them, but let's go forward. So now before we ask them to get personal about their own journey, I want to quickly walk everyone through what my text itself describes as the process, just so we are on the same page. It generally moves through 7 stages. It starts with eligibility screening, where they check your age, your programs, your institution, and your GPA. Then comes application review, where they actually look at your CVs, your transcripts, your reference letter, and your written background section. After that is a project fit review, where your profile gets matched against the specific projects you apply to. Out of more than 3,000 live projects on the portal, then there is a faculty or professor review, where the host professor themselves evaluates whether you are a good fit. In some cases, there is a possible interview with that host professor. Then comes final matching, where the professor and the project actually gets logged in. And finally, confirmation, which usually happens sometimes in the January to February window. So this is the general framework as my text describes it publicly, and the exact field names can shift slightly on the live portal. So let us actually hear how much of this matched what our guests went through themselves. So, which of these 7 stages actually happened for you, and exactly when in the timeline, in your own words? And specifically, I think this is the part most people are curious about. Were either of you interviewed by a professor at any point? If so, how many interviews did you actually go through, and what were they like actually? So, Ma'am Noor, would you like to start us off at this time?
Sure. So, in this scenario, I'm one of the unique ones who did not get selected in the first round, right? So basically, after you submit your application, there's the first round of selections where professors they may reach out to you, they may ask for an interview, and then they might, choose you. Some people don't get interviews; they can just be selected without an interview, right? I got neither an interview nor a selection. So I was shifted off to the second round where I had no hope at all. And one day my professor, he emailed me that I really liked your profile. It seems like it's matching what I want. Can we have a meeting? And that meeting was at the same day, same night. So, yes, I did have an interview. And he told me during the interview that I really liked you and do make sure to rank me up so we can have each other. So that was my specific journey in this timeline.
Yes, and I think these interviews are not like Pakistan, like how they make it Pakistan, that they are super technical, and it's more like a general chit chat type interviews. Am I right?
Kind of, yes, because they already have your technical information with you, with themselves, right? They already have your profile. Beyond that, in the interview itself, they're trying to see if you guys will be a good match for them specifically, right? For them, for their whole team. Usually, what Pakistani interns do, what I also did, was we create a presentation with ourselves, right? We take a presentation, we give a small, quick 5-minute presentation. Okay, this is what I'm like, this is what my strengths are, this is what my weaknesses are. And that can lead to more questioning, more chit chat, right? You can actually throw more, like you can bring focus to the things that you actually want during those interviews. And usually, professors do give a small indication during the interview that will you be taken further or not.
Okay, great. That's actually a useful walkthrough. Thank you, Ma'am Noor. Sarari, how
No
does your
problem.
experience compare to that?
Okay, so I was one of those who did not get an interview. So after we applied, throughout there's this group for Mitacs. Everybody, most of the people were like, we're getting interviews, and I did not get any email for any interview. So that was one thing which where I thought, okay, maybe I won't get selected. But ultimately, in the first round, did get selected. So there's this one thing that you don't specific. If you don't get an interview, it does not mean that you're not selected, because anything can happen basically. So for me, I did not have an interview. I just got selected directly. Many of people I know went through the same thing. They didn't have an interview and were selected directly. But I also know a lot of people who went through like 3, 4 different interviews with different professors, and eventually one of them, they were selected in one of the interviews they gave. So it's either or an or. Even if you don't get an interview, you still have a chance of getting selected. And if you do get an interview, then I think that it is your best chance of qualifying and putting yourself out there. So that was my experience.
Thank you.
Funny
It's interesting
story.
how different those two paths already sound. I think that is exactly the kind of honesty this session needed.
Yeah, funny
So,
story. Someone I know got an interview from a different professor, but they actually got selected by a different professor.
okay, great. Thank you, Mamnoor. So let's move into the strategy now, because this next part is where most applicants actually get stuck. As of right now, there are 3,359 live projects listed on the Mitex Global Link portal. That number alone is overwhelming. So I want to ask both of you directly. Sir Ali, when you were staring at that list, what did you actually look at first to start eliminating projects? And is there something people tend to overvalue in a project description that you personally learned to ignore?
Okay, so about me, when I saw the projects, I had a lot of good friends, seniors, who I've talked to as well, and they told me, "Ki don't just go for the top university of Canada. For example, U of T, Waterloo, McGill, keep them, but keep some mid-tier universities as well, because what happens is the people when always go for they try to put all the high tier universities in their list and eventually not getting selected. So the thing here is what I did was I kept a balance. So I had like I got selected in the first priority I had, but what I did was I chose them by like 2 to 3 top tier universities, then 4 or 5 mid tier universities, and the last three were like lower tier universities. But the thing is that you're not here studying; you're here to work or research in a lab. So as long as your research and the project you're choosing is valid and you're interested in it, the university doesn't matter that much, because this is probably the research will count, not where you did the research. I mean, it will count the professors and all, but what can happen is eventually you getting selected is always better than not getting selected. So that is one thing. When I was selecting the project, secondly, I focused a lot on the keywords. So I wanted to do some research in robotics. With VLAs or LLMs. So I focused a lot on keyword search. I would go through the keyword search. I would go through multiple projects. I would look up the professors. All the professors' profiles are almost always available either on Google Scholar, or they have their own websites as well, or on the university's website. So I went there, I looked at them, I saw what I resonated most with, and that is how I started selecting my projects. So initially, I remember I selected like 2024 projects. Then I scrutinized them, used AI as well to help me identify like the keys of every project, so that I know what every project's deliverables and demands are, and if I want to take up that project or not.
मीट
From
मैं
there, I
मीटिंग नहीं है,
started.
मतलब एक सेशन रखा हुआ है जो कुछ सीनियर्स.
Sorry, sorry. So that is what. How I shortlisted it down to 10 projects. And then so it's basically 3,300 projects seems overwhelming, but when you do a keyword search, for example, most of you are in computer, so some of you will be more towards cybersecurity, some will be more towards AI, ML, machine learning, some more will be towards software engineering, application development, UI, UX. So when you do the keyword search, it automatically decreases those projects numbering down. So it becomes more manageable for you per se. And I think try to align your resume with the project. So the project also has a lot of keywords. So align your resume's keywords or your CV's keywords with the project's keywords, and then shortlist them and apply for them. That is what advice I would give.
Thank you. That is actually quite practical, very practical. And thank you for breaking that down. Ma'am, Noor, did you approach it the same way or anything differently?
I did mostly do it in the same way, right? I actually looked at the universities just at the end, right? I was looking at the projects themselves at the start. So I started out with a keyword search artificial intelligence, and there were so many projects. There were millions and millions of projects, as you know, because now everything has AI, right? So I had to narrow it down even more than that. So I looked at my profile. I saw what exactly have I worked on, right? I have worked on AI and signal processing, right? So I use these specific keywords to even bring out more projects. This is how I got total, I think, 30 projects. And then I cross-referenced with my profile a lot. I color coded. So I saw which ones are completely aligning with my profile. I colored them green. I had them as my safeties. Then I had some which I was interested in, but my profile didn't completely align with them, right? So I had them as yellow and then red as the ones which I don't have any similarity at all with. So after that, I did the ranking according to the university ranking, right? But before that, I did not even check the university names. What was more important was the project itself.
Okay, thank you, ma'am Noor. And I think everyone listening has learned really useful ways to actually start narrowing this down. Okay, so now this next one is something I think a lot of people underestimate until they actually open the portal for themselves. The background and research interest field on the application has a hard cap of around 100 words, am I right? And this is not a paragraph, that is barely a page. And the character counter on the portal is not a suggestion, so it is actually like ceilings you cannot cross. So certainly with that little space to work with, what did you end up cutting first, and did you follow any particular structure or formula to fit everything meaningful into it, like writing in points form or like that?
So for this, I was advised to write bullet points. So first, I started with a paragraph, but I shifted to bullet points. In bullet points, what I did was I exactly don't remember because I was before this I was trying to find my application. I couldn't. But what I remember is one bullet point was on my skills, what skills I have. One was what projects I've worked on. One was what tech stack I know, what technology stack, robotic frameworks, all those things I know. What is my research interest? Again, research interest would if would what when I wrote research interest, I tried to align them with the projects I chose. So those were my research interest, and then the experience was what I've done projects. I wrote about UGrad as well. So 100 words, when you start writing it, it becomes very short, and that is where AI is your friend. Because when you write a sentence, you can ask it to keep the meaning, but shorten it as much as possible. So it actually does make quite of a difference, and you eventually start getting within the 100 words limit. Even if you are not, then what you can do is first, I would always recommend first write whatever you want to write, regardless of the 100 word cap. Then start cutting down because then you know what you want and what you don't want. Instead of just writing 100, start trying to write 100 words at the start, you'll always leave something out. So try whatever you want to write, even if it goes to like 150, 200 words, let it go, then start cutting it down, see what is prominent, what is not, what is important, and then eventually land at the 100 word max. Similarly, for the notable achievement, I again used bullet points. So, notable achievements, what I did was I focused on a mix of academic and extracurricular activities as well. Um, so, I wrote about all the sports achievements, academic achievements, exchange semester achievements, similarly all those things because for professor, if you have some extracurriculars like club activities or those things, it actually stands out to them because you actually have to survive in a lab where you're interacting with a lot of people. So it's not just academic. You also need to have good social skills as well, especially if you're coming from a country like Pakistan and professors don't have an idea that much idea about Pakistan. So it always helps you go the extra mile with them because they realize, okay, this person has some social skills and he will fit right within our lab, and there won't be like hesitation or problems for him doing research among us, master students, PhD students, or even interacting with me. So that is how I did all this.
Okay, that is actually a really great suggestion. Like we should first write it in raw form, and then there is also AI available for us to help out in this way. So, Ma'am Noor, how did you approach fittings or background into the same limit?
Okay, so first of all, what you have to keep in mind is that these are just one part of your entire profile, right? You also have a resume, a CV with this. So try to make sure that you are showing the entire picture, right? If there's something missing from your CV, make sure it's here at least. So what Ali said, I also had it in bullet form, just like my seniors told me, right? And beyond that, in my background knowledge and research interests, I tried to use the same keywords as my projects, right? Exact same keywords. I was like natural language processing, computer vision. So I was like using those keywords in here so it shows up in their search, right? Beyond that, I did add some of my own stuff, my own details, just like he said that he added something about his clubs, etc. I added something about my hobbies, that I've done this, I've crocheted this much things, right? It does like make you seem like a more rounded figure. So what I did was I wrote everything that I had in one go, right, in a bullet form, and then I cross-reference with my CV that am I repeating something? If I'm repeating something, is it something that is needed to be repeated here? If it's not, then I took it out. That's something that really helps to cut down the words, right? So I guess that's it.
Honestly, just hearing both of your approaches back to back is probably the single most useful few minutes of this session for anyone about to open that field for the first time. And let's talk about reference letters, shall we? Because Mitex only requires one, to up to two are accepted, and it has to come specifically from a professor rather than an employer or anyone else. And here is something worth knowing: the portal itself actually gives your professor two options when they are submitting it. They can either sign off on a letter that you draft for their review, or they can use one of their own existing drafts that they have already have on file. So I want to ask you both about this, ma'am. Noor, which of those two parts did you actually take? Did you draft a letter yourself for the professor to review and sign? And how did you actually came to accomplish that?
So I had two reference letters, right? I drafted both of them by myself and had my professors review it, see if it's something that they would also write, they would also sign off. So I personally had one letter from my FIP supervisor, right? She was also my research paper supervisor. And so she checked it. She told me, okay, you should add this, you should take that out. So she went through a few drafts with me, but then the second letter was from my HOD, right? He also taught us a few courses and he just signed it. He barely saw it, I think. So I don't think any professor will be writing it themselves. They are a little bit busy. You will have to sit and draft it yourself, but they will give you some feedback on it. So don't worry about that.
Thank you, ma'am. That's generally helpful to know. Thank you. So, Sir Ali, how did that process go for you?
Okay, for me, I submitted two reference letters. So one was I asked one of my favorite professors in the US if he could write me one, and he was happy to do so. So one was that. The second one, I wrote it myself, but I wanted it to be done from Dr. Zohaib from Mechatronics, Department of Mechatronics, because he goes for he teaches microcontrollers and belt systems and all those things. And eventually, what I wanted to do was landing within his domain. So nice of him. We made like seven, eight uh, changes in my recommendation letter. He pushed me to change this, make this way, make this that way. Eventually, uh, we completed it. I think on the last day the application was due, and the Mitex sends emails to the professors directly. So he then took a scanned it, and then submitted it on the final day. So it probably, if you're from EME, all your teachers will ask you to write it yourself and just get it signed by them. The most important thing is, in your reference letter, don't just sing praises of yourself, because that kind of shows that you wrote it yourself. Look at it from the experience or from the perspective of the professor. Try to write. This is what I have experienced quite a lot whenever I talk about reference letters with anybody. Everyone tells me to also write something difficult, what you experienced with that person and how you overcame that. Because obviously, if it's a reference letter, the professor knows that the person who's writing it likes you enough to write a reference letter for you. But this is the main thing that differentiates you, because it actually shows the person, whoever is reading the reference letter, about how resilient you are and how adaptable to changes you are. And that can make a big difference in like 95% of situations. So that is my experience of reference letters.
Oh, thank you, Sarali. And building on that, Ma'am Noor, you were previously talking about CV resume as well, and how we should try to align our projects based on that. And so, is there a particular structure you should by for your CV, like what goes right at the top, what stays further down, and how do you personally decide what deserves a full paragraph versus just a single line in your resume?
Okay, so when it comes to the format itself, right? Um, I have seen a lot of people with a lot of formats, right? And a lot of them got selected. So I don't think the format itself really matters. What matters is that your resume should look clean, right? It should not look like a lot of paragraphs. It should look clean, it should look bulleted, and always make sure that whatever you're adding whatever you're writing, it correlates with the projects that you've chosen, right? The projects that you've chosen, their keywords are showing up somewhere in your resume. The projects that you're adding to your resume, they should also somehow link to the projects that you have chosen, right? For example, I chose projects in I the project that I was chosen for, it was multimodal AI in education, right? So I made sure that my resume had something related to NLP, it had something related to computer vision, it had something related to AI in just data tables, etc. This showed that I have proficiency in different modalities, right? So I feel like the formatting does not matter that much. What matters is the content itself. Beyond that, I know that a lot of people haven't done any researches, etc., or maybe have just started. If you have just started, you can add that to your resume, by the way, because I did add ongoing projects to my resume. Like I added some researches that I was writing at that moment and it still hadn't been submitted. I added that to my resume and turns out it was very linked to my project. Beyond that, I would also recommend that if you think your resume is like missing something, some very valid aspect, you can quickly just do some small certification. I did do that. I saw that my resume has nothing related to NLP, so I just did a small, quick certification in NLP and I added that to my resume. And I guess that's it.
Yes, that's a great way to. I mean, that is genuinely a great advice. So, like, we should try to align our content for the projects we are applying for. And suddenly, I think can you also talk about how did you align your resume based on the project to be selected for physical robotics and AI?
Okay, so what I did was I didn't have much research experience before applying for this. So that was a gap that I had to fill basically in my application. So what I did was the first thing I did was the first 10 projects I shortlisted. I gave the description of all those projects and my CV to an AI agent. I asked it to tailor, to first audit it and tell me if I'm applying for these positions, what is missing in my CV. I got some feedback on it from there. I implemented some of those in my CV, mostly were just keywords. But the gap in research that I did not have, again, what I did was I cover. So you need to cover it up with something. I covered it up with my internships and work experience because I was already working in the end of my third year. So like at the start of my final year, I was already working as an AI engineer. So I covered that aspect of mine through that and showed that I was already employed and working. So that gave me an edge because I did not have research. But again, a lot of people here I've met did not have any research and got selected. So if you haven't done any research, probably this is the best chance to do some research. So try getting some research experience. Even try doing some. I think so in EME there's any NCRA. You can go there for some research, even some help on some research. It's there's my Biomisa, there's RISC. There are a lot of things in EMA that you can go meet whoever is there, ask them that you want to contribute in some research of this for like a very short amount of time, help them, and then write that in your CV as well. As Noor mentioned, she did some certifications. That is one thing. If you want some research experience, you can do it this way as well. So, and even if you don't have, I don't have any research, so probably this will be my first publication, which I do here. And again, this is happening here. I did not have any research prior to coming here. So even if you don't have research, that doesn't mean that, or research experience, that doesn't mean that you should be disheartened or not apply. This could be the first chance you get into a research environment and try to and publish something or actually do some research on some valuable thing. So that is my opinion on like CV and how to tailor it and what to do if you don't have like research experience.
So, thank you, Sarali. Now, building on that, same context here, there's another concern for GPA. Like published guidance for Pakistani applicants points to roughly an 80% cumulative GPA as a benchmark. So it is worth everyone confirming their exact standing directly on the current portal rather than relying on the number. So for someone who is below that benchmark or who is just worried their GPA is not competitive enough, of course, both of you had exceptional GPA masala. But like, do you know anyone who had a GPA at par and they still managed to make it to Mitacs?
I think that this restriction was placed last year, right? That they just cut anyone who didn't have enough GPA before the first round. But I think before that, they always looked at the profile as a whole, not at GPA itself, right? So I would say that there's no harm in applying because you never know what they're going to do this time, right? So you should still apply.
Thank you, ma'am Noor. Okay, so let's talk about some red flags and quiet mistakes. So, was some mistake whether it was yours or someone else's that quietly weakened an application which otherwise looked genuinely strong, or if you know anyone else who made any mistake, any senior, and connected to that, is there a red flag in how people choose their reference letter writer that you would specifically warn a junior about? Ma'am Noor, would you like to go first this time?
First red flag is that sometimes people just choose projects which sound cool, but it does not align with their profile at all. I will admit I did choose one project like that, but that was just for fun. I had other safe projects as well, but I did add one project like that. But I do know some people who added a lot of projects and then they did not realize that their profile was not matched with that. Beyond that, I would also recommend that once you complete your application, have some other third party look at it with like fresh eyes and have them see that the story that you're presenting in your application, does that really, like, would someone in these projects choose you on the basis of just that story, right? Will they? Because sometimes I feel like people forget that they're not writing everything, right? And you have to write everything. You have to present everything that you have in this application. So do have some third person also look at your application at the end. Beyond that, references, I don't think that uh that really matters. It just they should have some connection to you. For example, I had my professor and supervisor, I had my HOD who was also kind of my internship boss, right? So there should be some viable link. Don't just bring in someone because of their name. They should have some kind of link with you.
Thank you, ma'am Noor, for this honest answer. So, Sir Ali, has anything like that come up in your own experience or in someone else's that you have seen closely?
I would second Noor here because a lot of people go for projects who sound very nice, but they don't align with anything on their application or about their personality or about their portfolio, whatever, or their experience. So they eventually don't get selected for that, and that is the biggest problem I have seen. Again, generic CVs is also one because again, what I did was whatever projects you choose, try to align the keywords of your CV with those projects as well, showing your experience in whatever those projects require. And that helps you quite a lot. And then, thirdly, again, the one thing I realized everybody tries to go for top tier universities, Waterloo, McGill, U of T, University of Toronto, and all those. But make a mix again. What Noor did, she did a very nice thing. Get your reach first of all. Align your 5 to 6 safeties where your experience aligns quite a lot with what the research actually requires. Then you have like three, four projects to play around with, go for the stars with that one basically. Choose the best of the best, whatever you want, whatever your reach is. That if you get this, it will be like a big reach. Try to get those sort of projects, but don't try to make the entire shortlisting of projects and all those just that. Make your safeties, make your reaches, make your things like these basically, so that you get a mix in your application. And even if you don't get for your reaches, you still have your safety projects on which you have quite a lot of aligned experiences and research experience if you have as well, and that gives you more of a chance to get selected.
And beyond that,
Exactly.
like I know a lot
That's
of people who
exactly
are
what
applying for Mitecs, right? They are also trying to apply for masters after this. So they're trying to get a reach, like an in with some professors. So the thing is, I did not get selected at a very great university, but I am near a lot of good universities, and I have managed to get some meetings with different professors. So don't worry about the ranking of your university. Just get to Canada. Once you get to Canada, you'll get to meet different professors. You'll get your chance here. Just get here first.
That's a great advice, ma'am. Noor. Okay, so I think this is pretty obvious myth busting. I just wanted to confirm, like, if any of you have given an English proficiency test, because it is shown as an option if you have given one, but I don't think it is mandatory to submit.
Not at all
It
needed.
it isn't mandatory. If you want,
Okay,
you can get the English
so
proficiency
let's
certificate
open
from
the
exam cell
Q&A
as well.
session for. So if anyone has any question, they can raise their hands to ask or write in the chat, and I will speak on their behalf. Okay, so Tizaz Hassan.
Assalamualaikum.
Yes,
Audible?
Tizaz, you can speak right now.
Assalamualaikum, sir. I'm Itlad Hassan. I'm from Software Engineering MCS. सर मेरा ये क्वेश्चन था कि मेरा ना कोई रिसर्च एक्सपीरियंस ऑलरेडी नहीं, लाइक मैंने कोई पेपर पब्लिश नहीं किया और समथिंग लाइक दैट। आप भी ये मेंशन कर रहे थे कि आपने भी इससे पहले कोई रिसर्च काम नहीं किया हुआ था। सो आई वुड आस्क कि अगर मैं प्रोजेक्ट शॉर्टलिस्ट कर लूँ और मेरे मतलब सीवी में कुछ ऐसे प्रोजेक्ट हों या ऐसे रिसर्च वर्क हो, रिसर्च तो प्रैक्टिकली पब्लिश पेपर्स नहीं बट थोड़ा काम ऐसा हो कि जो उससे रिलेट कर हो, तो विल इट बी प्लस फॉर माई लाइक सीवी या क्या मतलब इसमें, और मैं और मजीद प्रोजेक्ट्स बना लूँ ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम, तो विल आई गेट इनफ चांसेस कि यार मतलब मेरा कोई सीन बन सकता है या मुझे पेपर्स चाहिए होंगे?
Yeah, so one misconception कि you need researchers and all those, you don't. मेरे कोई पेपर पब्लिश नहीं हुआ, पब्लिश मैं उस साइट पे अपनी पूरी डिग्री में मतलब I ran from research as much as I could because I did not like doing research, but अब I've realized that you have to मतलब and even I don't think इतना ज़रूरी है in this scenario because a lot, I would say 60 से जितने the people I've met, more than 65-70% of people have no research before coming here. So this is the first research experience they're having. And professors know this as well because again, you're in your undergrad. Not most undergrads have like research experiences. And even if they do, a lot of them are just like very low tier journals, yeah, very low tier conferences. So it's to hear what I talked to my professor about this here in Canada. So he told me this as well. Ke when I was looking through applications, a lot of the conferences I saw, they were like very low tier or journals were very low tier, and I did not give much weightage to those. So again, it does. अगर आपकी research नहीं है, it does not matter. What you need to do is compensate that with something else. Projects, deploy those projects, share the link of that project in your CV as well, ताकि he can actually go and see कि यार अच्छा इस बंदे को ये काम आता है और इसने बनाया हुआ और ये deployed और he can interact it with himself. इस तरह की चीजें करो, which can compensate for your research experience is what I would recommend. But again, research नहीं है is not a problem at all.
Okay,
Right,
and
sir?
beyond that, from what I've seen is ke, like I asked a few professors ke, what does research experience actually show to you? So what they said is ke, it shows ke you worked on something for a few months, right? It's not something कि आप फौरन बस छोड़ देते हो. You can't just do it in one prompt. So if you don't have that, have some projects like that instead. Not the small projects जो आपके एक prompt से बस हो गया काम, ठीक है? It should be like something a bit more bigger scale, which shows that you can commit to something, you can work on something, and you can also even make a story about that for your interview later on. Catch, I had these issues, I worked on it, etc. etc.
Also, internships also count quite a lot. Internships की बहुत weightage होती है जो we don't realize back in Pakistan. But if you've done internships, if you've done good internships where you've done meaningful work, you got to learn a lot, you got to make a lot, and you write it clearly, you communicate it clearly in your CV. So it goes, I think, in my opinion, it goes way farther than a research experience, and that is what my professor told me as well. Again, because of what Noor said, it mostly shows that you can dedicate some time, like a longer period of time, to doing just one thing. You're not looking for easy escapes or something. And the research, if you have internships for like 2 months, 3 months, or if you have like two, three internships as well, where you can show how each internship you learned something new, you made something new, and you can show that something. So that experience pushes you way more than just a research paper could. Because
Right, sir. One
eventually it
last
also
question.
shows that you have also interacted with people in your internship. You've been into a similar environment as to what a lab would be as well. You've talked to people, you've communicated with them, you've been under a mentor in your internship who's guided you similar to a professor here who would be guiding you for your research. So it's mostly the same environment. So that is what they're looking for, if you've been in that environment and if you've proven yourself in that environment or not.
So one last thing, as you said कि आपका जो रेफरेंस लेटर है it must be with someone जिसके साथ आपने काम किया हो. सर अगर ऐसा कोई सेक्टर एक्सपीरियंस ना हो कि जिसके साथ आपने काम किया हो, कैन वी फेकन इट लाइक हम कोई प्रोजेक्ट्स उनके साथ रिलेट कर दें? एंड आल्सो कि हम अब तो रिसर्च पेपर का टाइम नहीं रहा एज इट्स ऑलरेडी एप्लीकेशंस आर ओपन, तो कोई ब्लॉग्स वगैरह या इस तरह कुछ लिख दें लाइक वी शो इट एज आवर रिसर्च और समथिंग.
अच्छा
Research
तो
अगर आप
सॉरी.
देखो, you don't have to publish something in this 1 month, right? It can be ongoing. Honestly, अगर आप लोग मेरे CV देखोगे ना, उसमें I have written 3 papers as ongoing because they were ongoing. वो उस पे काम हो रहा था, but they were not going to be published by the time I submitted the paper. So it was just ongoing. If you start something, if you're writing it, if you have a first draft, that you can put it in as a first, like an ongoing thing.
ऑल्सो फॉर रेफरेंस लेटर्स जो आप कह रहे थे, देखो हर प्रोफेसर पढ़ा तो है ही है ना आपने, और कोर्सेज के प्रोजेक्ट्स भी होते हैं, तो जो कोर्स प्रोजेक्ट्स होते हैं, तो उस प्रोफेसर से, किसी भी प्रोफेसर से लिखवा लो जिसके साथ आपने कोर्स प्रोजेक्ट किया और उसको आपका प्रोजेक्ट पसंद आया था, और उस प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में लिख लो. कोई कंपटीशन है आपने अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी में, कोई जिस तरह हमारा एनईआरसी होता था, आप लोगों का कोई डिफरेंट ऐसा कुछ होगा, तो आप उसके बारे में भी लिखवा सकते हो कि इस वो प्रोफेसर के पर्सपेक्टिव से कि इस बंदे ने ये भी किया, ही वाज ये ही मेड, मतलब इन प्रोजेक्ट्स एंड लैब्स वगैरह में ही वाज ऑलवेज वेरी इंटरेस्टेड. तो इस तरह की चीजें आप, तो यू डोंट नेसेसरली हैव टू फेक इट. प्रोफेसर के साथ आपका 6, अगर एक भी सेमेस्टर आपने पढ़ा है, तो इट्स क्वाइट अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम फॉर हिम टू नो यू बेसिकली. तो वो, और उनके साथ आपने प्रोजेक्ट भी किए, ज्यादातर हमारे हर सेमेस्टर में हर कोर्स का तो प्रोजेक्ट होता ही होता है, तो उसमें भी आप अपने आप को शोकेस करा सकते हो थ्रू दैट प्रोजेक्ट विद दैट प्रोफेसर.
सर प्रोफेसर की रैंकिंग लाइक टीचर की, इफ ही इज अ लेक्चरर एंड अनदर वन इज प्रोफेसर, तो डज इट मैटर?
यार इसका आई डोंट नो, बट अगेन आई वुड रिकमेंड कि आप किसी प्रोफेसर से ही लिखवा लो who's done his PhD as well, because this is a research internship, so the reference letter needs to be geared more towards कि professor's lens के are you good enough for research or not, for research tasks और ये वो. तो इसके लिए, because the PhD has done a lot of research, he has a lot of experience, extensive experience with people working under him as well, mentoring people in as well. तो उस चक्कर में a professor would be a better option in my opinion.
राइट सर, राइट. थैंक यू सो मच सर, अली एंड मैम.
अगर किसी और के पास कोई क्वेश्चन है तो वो अपना हैंड रेज कर सकता है और उसे अनम्यूट कर दिया जाएगा। बाकी सर अली, अभी आपका एक्सपीरियंस कैसे जा रहा है? आई थिंक इट इज़ लाइक थर्ड वीक इन कनाडा।
हाँ यार, लाइक सेकंड वीक के वो खत्म, बस सेकंड वीक खत्म होने वाला है, तो एक्सपीरियंस इज वेरी गुड। जिस सिटी में आई एम, आई थिंक नूर इज आल्सो इन मॉन्ट्रियल, तो
No, I'm in
जो
Edmonton.
एडमिंटन, सॉरी। तो मैं तो आई एम इन मॉन्ट्रियल, तो मॉन्ट्रियल तो इज लाइक अ वेरी नाइस सिटी, बहुत प्यारी जगह है। डाउनटाउन, मेरी यूनिवर्सिटी इज इन द डाउनटाउन, तो वो सब कुछ इज वेरी नियर टू मी। तो बस ये है कि आई वांट टू लीव लाइक बिफोर द इंटेंस कनाडा विंटर, बिकॉज आई हर्ड कि -30 -35 तक टेम्परेचर जाता है।
Yes.
तो
And
यस,
अभी भी ठंड लगनी शुरू हो गई है मुझे।
हो गए है। यस, मुझे भी थोड़ी सी वो फील आना शुरू हो गया है। तो उस चक्कर में, बट यूनिवर्सिटी इज अमेजिंग, लोग भी बड़े अच्छे हैं, प्रोफेसर्स बहुत अच्छे हैं, रिसर्च अच्छी जा रही है इधर वैसी। और आपके साथ जो पाकिस्तानी बहुत लोग हर जगह ही, मेरे साथ कॉन्कोर्डिया में 3 और हैं, मॉन्ट्रियल सिटी में ईटीएस में बहुत ज्यादा हैं। तो वो ग्रुप बनते रहते हैं। देन अगेन यू हैव एक्सपोजर ऑफ मीटिंग पीपल फ्रॉम अदर कंट्रीज एज वेल, जो भी माइटैक्स में आए हैं, चाइना के हो गए, यूक्रेन के हो गए, रशिया के हो गए, फ्रांस वगैरह, कोलंबिया, मेक्सिको। तो वो उनके साथ भी आप लोगों के प्लान्स बनते रहते हैं, तो वो बड़ा मजा आता है, नए एक्सपीरियंस होते हैं, तो इट्स क्वाइट नाइस।
बिल्कुल। मैम नूर, आपका भी अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस अभी तक जा रहा है। आपने भी आई थिंक लेट ही से ज्वाइन किया था जब,
No.
क्योंकि शायद आई थिंक
I
वीज़ा
was
एप्लीकेशन।
I was one of the lucky ones who got their visas in the first wave. ठीक है, I got it in May. So I've been here since June की second week, right? And अभी I'm in my last month almost, and अभी तो I'm wrapping my stuff up, and अभी साथ साथ और पाकिस्तानी आ रहे हैं. At the start, I felt really outnumbered by other interns, पर एकदम से सारे पाकिस्तानी आ गए हैं, so we're outnumbering them now, and it's a very nice experience. It's you get to meet a lot of new people from different cultures. We also like made each other food from our cultures, and you find out how everyone has completely different tastes. That was fun. And there are a lot of activities here, festivals, like they are very active Canadians. They have festivals every other weekend. एक दिन पे sometimes they have 3 festivals and you have to choose between them. And last week तो मीटिंग शावर भी हो रहा था, तो उसके वॉच पार्टीज भी हो रहे थे। I myself just came last night from a watch party. It was very nice.
Thank you, ma'am. चले तो let's wrap it up. Before we close out for the night, here is a 5-point recap. The deadline is September 16, 2026 at 1 o'clock Pacific time, which is 30 days from tonight. You will be applying to somewhere between 3 and 10 projects across at least 3 provinces and splitting those into safety picks and reach picks like suggested by Sir Ali and Ma'am Noor. And every single field on that application has a word limit, so write tight and lead with whatever matters most. Tailor your CV and your reference letter to the actual projects you are applying to, and do not reuse the exact same version everywhere. And finally, there is no IELTS requirement listed for Pakistani applicants, and our role GPA does not have to be the disqualifying either, as long as the rest of your application genuinely shows why you are fit. Sir Ali, Ma'am Noor, thank you both so genuinely for giving us this much of your evening and for being this honest about the process that most people only ever get to see from the outside. And thank you to everyone from BRISC, CMC, and RAC who helped out tonight together. If you are serious about applying this year, honestly, do not wait until next week. Start your shortlist tomorrow morning while all of this is still fresh in your mind. You can find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. The handles are up on the screen right now. Good night, everyone. Good luck. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.